May is still a relatively early time in the year for plants. The weather is really starting to warm up, and the sun is out and shining more consistently. There's still a cold wind blowing that makes it too early yet to plant anything outside the greenhouse until June, though later on in the month that can get quite tempting, especially because it starts to get too hot for me to sit inside my greenhouse anymore. But things are really starting to grow, and though there aren't too many flowers yet, it's reassuring to see that my garden is filling in. My milkweed was hiding for most of April, but it really started to shoot up like crazy once the sun started shining. I hope it will be enough food for my monarch caterpillars once the butterflies start laying their eggs. That's something I'm always concerned about. But I'm finding that the plant really just naturally wants to spread itself around, and I find it growing in some unexpected places. While I'm waiting for my garden, I still can't bring myself to sit inside for too long, so I spent a lot of the month wandering around outside, especially around Canatera Park. Looking around for signs of spring and visiting my favorite gnarled old willow trees. If I can't find too many flowers and colors at home, there's lots to be found out here in the woods and by the water. There's lots of other life as well. I love that my own backyard attracts some wildlife of its own, although that comes with the challenge of birds pooing where they want, chipmunks and squirrels feeling free to dig wherever they please. But that comes with the territory, and rocks are often enough of a deterrent. As long as we can all maintain a respectful distance. I did give in to the temptation a bit and plant some things in my front garden. Marigolds, zinnias, morning glory, and bee balm. Notice the anti-digging rocks around my freshly planted marigolds. It was later in the month and the weather was really warming up, and I tend to want to get the front garden done first since I don't like spending too much time out there. It's nice to get most of the hard work done before it gets too hot out. Eventually, the only thing I'll be doing in my garden, other than enjoying it, is a daily watering routine. I love hostas for shadier areas, like in my front garden, because they fill in so nicely and they're very low maintenance. Plus, they produce lovely fragrant flowers later on in the summer. I also love to see what comes up in the relatively empty patch of dirt in my front garden. I'm often quite pleasantly surprised. Moving on to my shade garden, I was initially really excited to see how well things were doing. Excited at the return of plants like my bleeding heart. But I was devastated to find that my Solomon seal plant got trampled. It was really one of my favorites. Every time something like this happens, I am unfortunately reminded about the crime in my neighborhood and how much of a violation it feels like when it either happens to me directly or when the small measure of peace I've found here is snatched away, just by being in close proximity to it. Almost daily, people in my life, lovely, well-meaning people, tell me that I should just move. And even if that was just as simple as that, it would ultimately solve nothing. So instead of wallowing in self-pity, though I might feel like it, I decided to make things for my garden. I'm determined to counteract that negativity with my silly little plants in my garden full of weeds. I started by raiding my craft hoard. I found a cheap wooden dollhouse kit that I purchased off of Amazon for some project or another, and I painted it. I decided to put it right in front of the scar in our fence where some unsavory characters had cut through. An ugly reminder of a violation that I had to look at every time I looked out my office window will now be something more whimsical. A fun, shady place for mice and chipmunks to hang out on hot summer days. I can't wait to see what it will look like when the big hostas and wild grape grows in all around it. I also decided to do something special out front, something for passers-by to discover on their walks. This big ivy-covered maple tree was just begging for a fairy door. I also put a ceramic lighthouse that I painted next to the milkweed patch. I call it the butterfly beacon. I'd like to add some more little features around the garden, so stay tuned. In the end, I managed to save one of my Solomon seal plants by fashioning a sort of splint or support for it by tying it to a stick. It felt really good to see it flower. With a little determination and an aggressively positive attitude, me and my plants will be able to endure and even thrive here. But that can be a real fight sometimes. So much depends on perspective. My environment isn't perfect, but I really want to make the best of things. I feel really blessed and fortunate to have my little patch of dirt, and that things keep growing here. I can't wait to see what blooms next month, and I'm really looking forward to getting my hands dirty and emptying out my greenhouse in June. I hope you're enjoying the sunshine as much as I am. Thank you so much for watching, and happy gardening.